Hello and welcome to One-on-One Conversation. It's a pleasure to have you watch and join in this series. Today I have a brother and a friend who is a personal development coach. He loves to see people develop in every area of their life. He's an author, he's a preacher, and he's very good at what he does. He has had the privilege of speaking at different events. I have Jeremiah Edet, who will be sharing with us the current state of the Nigerian educational system, the reality at hand, how well the educational system in this country is either preparing people for life after school or not. I believe you're going to get so much value from this because it has so much counsel to share. If you are a graduate, maybe a fresh graduate or an undergraduate, some of the things you need to be doing in reality to prepare for life after school. So after this, the person you'll be seeing is Jeremiah Edet.
I believe the Nigerian educational system is trying their best, in my opinion, because if you study any line or field of endeavor in school, you will notice the information are circled around that field. What I think is largely a mistake is the decision on the course of study. I was talking with somebody yesterday and I was laughing. I said if I would go back to school today, maybe I'll look for guidance and counseling. I studied economics in my undergraduate. I would have gone for something a lot more in tune with my personality, the style of understanding. For some people, they are good with cognitive stuff. Some are very good at mathematics. He was talking about physics. I said, no. What real life use does it have? So I believe the Nigerian system is doing its job to a large extent. We'll get to the flaws and all that. But I also think most people who get into the university system get because they want to get admissions at first. They want to leave the house. Your friends are going to school. Me too, I want to go to school. Some have looked for admission to a point. They feel any course that comes, they take it. So if that person is studying not from a place of interest, not from a place of, this desire that this is what I want, he will struggle in that area. So a lot of people, and maybe 200 level, 300 level, and all they are doing is just, let me finish this thing. I don't disappoint my parents, the fellowship, or whoever is close to me, but they know they are struggling. So I believe if there's a system to which people are educated, firstly, before they begin to choose line of study, it will help. The second part, which is said, is the people who teach these courses. Yes. The people who teach these courses, I've heard a few people talk about A being for God, B, and all that. So in a system where there is no freedom to interaction between student and teacher, we're largely a culture that, quote unquote, loves respect. And I saw a post online, the guy just called a prof, sir, mister. And the annoyance, he said you will fail this course. People have been making these jokes, but these things happen in real life. There are people who tell you, I will not supervise this stuff you're doing, just know you've gotten C. So in a system where you're not free to integrate with your lecturer, you're not free to, blend with the system because of some respect, culture is blended in our education. Yes, someone can tell you will fail this thing and there's nobody to report to. And if you report to somebody, you feel victimized because the whole system is, somehow solidated to be against the student who is coming to report a lecturer. So if you can work on number one, sensitizing people on courses to study. Secondly, work on, educating and, sensitizing the people who present these courses, it will go a long way. And number three, the infrastructure we used to learn. Not to dent any educational platform or whatsoever. But there were times where lecture halls were not enough, the learning environment is not, sun can be very hot and you're just stuffed in a one. Those times I would just go to school and go back home. Honestly speaking, I'm like, nothing's entering, so why am I even stressing myself? The educational environment, we thank God for the things happening in our schools. There are a lot of improvement and it's beautiful to see. But as at those times where I was in the university, there were little or no infrastructure. So we had this, had that, and few people still complain these things. So we should work on infrastructure. And another thing is the curriculum. Yes, I spoke to somebody who was studying computer science, and he was just saying how the person who just comes to take the programming classes and lectures just comes to read the notes and come. So in a world where a lot of things are fast developing, I love doctors, medical science, because they are still put under exams, I know there are publications for academic lecturers and all that, but we need to put a lot more work to pressurizing the people to know that we're not just lecturing, we're producing the next set of leaders, we're producing the next set of tech giants, people who develop things and transform society. They should be put under strict watch, not the same thing you were teaching for the past 10 years, you know, employing and adding new technological trends, the things that are happening now. AI is here. Imagine, you just need to begin to integrate a lot of things so that we are bringing people who are not with outdated curriculum, but people who are ready to face the current world. So people struggle with challenges on not knowing what to read. Secondly, the lecturers or the people who are in charge of these students. Some are not from happy homes. Sorry to say, but someone just tells you, if I enter here, I will lock the door, not minding the challenges that made somebody come to school late and all those kind of factors. It affects psychologically on those who are learning. And I've seen some people who struggled to school here in Nigeria. They went abroad, and my goodness, they were excelling. One said he called somebody this, and he said, no, call me by my name. You don't try that here. So the lecturers, the infrastructures, the curriculum, and I believe we are doing very, very great as we're increasing developing the economy. A lot of things are advancing. My best advice for someone who is currently in the university system is to be forward thinking. Yes, you need to be forward thinking. Actually, when I was towards my 300 level, 400 level, I began to change my priorities. Not like I stopped education or whatsoever. I was still active in school, but I began to understand the need for entrepreneurial development, having a skill, working on your skill, because, you know, when we want to study economic ties, we check past data. You can see the numbers of people who are unemployed year after year. Graduates are coming out. Irrespective of a professional certificate or whatever, you'll see the competition out there in the job field. And I began to harness the skills I could handpick during those times in school. Now, we're depending on the government for jobs. Thank God there are improvements as we go along the way. You're also reliant on the curriculum you learn in school. But as a wise student who is in school now, who knows that you will leave the four walls of the university very shortly, you must begin to integrate yourself with needed and useful skills that produce results in the real life. In the school is still real life, but to me, after that wall, maybe you do some NYC and that money just gets to stop. The whole thing just becomes a reality. At that stage, maybe you have some younger sibling, people just look up to you. All of a sudden, you just enter into a stage where people believe you should have. Maybe because you went to school, I don't know, but they believe you should have. So you need to have needed and useful skills. I recall at that time I was doing fashion designing majorly, so I began to outsource more customers, you know, sharpening my skill to make sure that, I wouldn't get to feel that lost in a new world, because I don't wake up to go to lectures again. You're not bothered with assignments and any other thing to do. So what happened during that stage is that I began to work more on my craft, master that craft to a point whereby I could begin to have people who pay me on a monthly basis, because outside of that reward, I'm telling you, it's different. You cannot just ask for handouts, depending on the background you're from. And so this is double advice. If you're in school, and you know you're not from a background that affords you so much of leverage. When I talk about leverage, the ability to be out there and a job is already waiting for you, the ability to be out there and the finance is given to you doesn't make you feel so much of left out. But you and I know some people are in school trying to fund their education, trying to fund their way through life. It's advisable that you begin to learn needed and useful skills. I would advise you start from learning things that helps you sell things. Yes, sales is a very good point. I believe every student, if you want to have an advantage in life, not just a student, any other person, sales is a very good place to start. Know how to exchange things for money. Yes, you should learn it as a skill that you don't need to produce to be a seller. All you need to know is where you can get it from a cheaper source and sell it as a higher source. If you're a student, you can start from this position where you know people are in school, they need shirts, they need slippers or something, and you can get somebody to give you at a cheaper price to sell at a higher price. What happens is that it makes you build negotiation skills, make you build a level of freedom and confidence in yourself, and then you can mix that with education, because at that level, you're not struggling to open a shop or something. It's just commerce. You buy, or maybe talk to somebody who has it in a store and say, I'll give you this by the end of the week when I sell this. And they agree. So it could work out like that. Maybe drop some guarantee, ID card or something, make them know you're trustworthy, and you can start from there. So if you're in school and you don't want to, believe me, it's different out here, honestly speaking, totally different. I was speaking with someone, I was like, just imagine people are still in school now. I said, I wish there were things I knew in school. And we're now trying to harness the issues we had during school time. I found out that the people who were leaders in fellowship or campus expression were fellow students. They didn't have the experience enough to teach the people inside of school. Because I mean, we just stay in the hostel, we come here. I am my fellowship president. I believe there should be a system where they bring people who are out there to come and teach them, even though it's once in a while, maybe once in a 6 month, 3 months period, just because people with experience can now look at other people and say, Kai, in as much as you're mixing this dimension of your study, prayers, begin to learn certain things like negotiation, your ability to sell, your ability to market things, because they are real life needed and useful skills that will make you valuable. So if you're in school, my opinion is that in as much as we're trusting for good curriculums, better lecturers is a systematic problem, and over time it's getting adjusted, but you will not be in that system forever. Help yourself, learn needed and useful skill. Another is AI. If you're studying stuff like computer science, instead of you to be struggling with maybe the Python they've written in 1999, the books and all that, you begin to learn the current trends, the current tides. You should be one who knows programming even before waiting for the lecturer, because you know this will set you and give you an edge. And lastly, for students, one of the things that shocked me most when I graduated was that people started looking for 5 years experience. I mean, you're not giving me a chance to gain 5 years experience. Where do you expect me to get it from? And so if you look at the whole job scenario, you will know that there's only one thing that can give you an escape route. It's called internship. So as a student, if you want to beat any system that makes you say, oh, we need you to have experience, in as much as you've entered 100 level and you know it's more like a professional setting, something that has to do with practical learning, I would advise you, mix your education with a company where you can say, I want to volunteer to learn this, to serve as this, even though you don't get paid. And as a matter of fact, if you're more loyal in that system, there will be incentives like transportation. But if you want to beat something called 5 years, begin to start something inside. So when you come out there, you have competitive advantage. How long have you been doing this? You say, oh, though I graduated last year, before I graduated, I've been integrated in financial systems. I've helped 1 or 2 companies, learned these are the practical stuff, and then you can go for extra certifications at advantage beforehand. So you don't come out to a world where it seems like everybody's harsh, everybody's competitive, everybody's on their own. People emotionally message me, you don't care about us. I mean, my goodness, I care about you, but I care about myself as well. We're looking for time to grow in knowledge, time to grow in investment, and every other thing. You don't expect me to shoulder you the same way we played around the university stage. So it's a depressing world for some who open up to that. But I think if you learn good, useful, and needed skills, it will save you. If you learn the art of volunteering under a business, a company, for internship and whatsoever, it will serve you more, because it gives you practical examples of how things work. And I think all this should help a student who is still in school.